Welcome back to the Broad Street Sports Podcast featuring Zachary Chavy, and today we got special guest Chris Sombers. What's going on, man?
What's going on? Nice to meet you.
All right, we're going to start off with the NFL playoff bracket here where we got the Divisional Round. The Divisional Round we had some very good games towards the very end, and we had one upset. We're going to start with the Saturday games. First game, Kansas City and Houston. What were your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I think this game just overall proves that the refs are on the Chiefs' side.
Yeah.
A lot of iffy calls this game, but still overall, Chiefs ultimately get the win like they do all the time.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, what I've learned is this is like the Chiefs' strategy, especially if you're playing them. You have to stay in the game, or you have to like jump out on an early lead, because if you stay in the game and these penalties keep piling up, and you just saw for Houston offense, they weren't able to execute in the red zone if it was missed field goals, just not scoring touchdowns. It came back to bite them, and I mean, at the end of the day, Kansas City knows how to win when it matters most, and Mahomes just needed to make the plays he needed to make, and like you said, the referees weren't best. It hasn't been great all year. It's been favored for Kansas City a lot, so that's for certain. But just overall, it's Kansas City. I don't think they're like the greatest team, but they just know how to win in the playoffs, and that's what makes them great. So
yeah, I think this further proves that Mahomes just always performs in the playoffs no matter what.
Mm-hmm. It's crazy. He's undefeated in the divisional round without throwing a single interception. So, and then moving on to the Saturday night game, the biggest shocker of the playoffs so far. The 6-seed Commanders go into Detroit and knock off the 1-seed 15-2 Lions by a score of 45-31. What were your thoughts about this game?
Yeah, I just see in this game that Jared Goff, I don't think he can perform with all the lights on him. Like, Lions are still a great team, have great depth, but a big part of their loss is like half their defense being hurt, and Jaden Daniels can easily tear apart weakened defense, and This game just proves it.
Exactly. I mean, looking at it, if you said Detroit would have scored 31 points going into the game, you thought they would have won. But Washington was just a better team that night. Jaden Daniels played like a superstar. He was making every single play that needed to be made. And the Commanders' defense made timely stops. They got 3 interceptions, and they got another interception on a trick play. I mean, Ben Johnson was putting out everything he had, because that was basically his final game as a Lion. So, and there just wasn't enough, because Washington, like I said, were the better team that night. They deserved to win that game the way they were playing, and they're a dangerous team right now that no one wants to be reckoned with, in my opinion. So,
yeah, Commanders, especially Jaden Daniels, is looking very scary right now for any team competing against them, like the Eagles now.
Mm-hmm. And before I move on to the next game, what were your thoughts on the Bears bringing in Ben Johnson and the Jets just bringing in Aaron Glenn a couple hours ago?
I think it was a very important move for the Bears to actually get a reliable coach, and I think Ben Johnson might be the missing piece to actually get the Bears a winning season finally with this team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it was the perfect move. If they want Caleb Williams' development to grow even more, Ben Johnson's the type of guy to do that. He's a brilliant mind. He could be like a Kevin O'Connell, Sean McVay in this league if he can have sustainability. And if he's able to find the greatness in Caleb Williams, the Bears could be good for years to come. So,
yeah, with the new Jets signing, I really don't see any difference in this. I think Robert Saleh was already good enough. I just think the Jets just need a new quarterback. I don't think Aaron Rodgers is the right answer right now.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. A lot of people are speculating that he'll retire in the offseason, so it will be interesting to see what they do at quarterback. But like you just said, they had a defensive-minded coach, and they let him go. It's not like the coach's problem. Like, Saleh was a good coach. He was there. He built a great culture, and then they brought in Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, and it was kind of like Aaron Rodgers ran the show. So, I mean, It will be interesting to see. I feel like if Aaron Rodgers stays, like you said, it won't make much of a difference. But if he retires and Aaron Glenn has a new quarterback, like new system to run, it should be interesting to see especially what type of offensive coordinator he wants to bring in, because he'll obviously be calling the defense. But it's going to be interesting for sure.
Yeah, I really believe that Glenn will absolutely make this defense one of, like, if not a top 10 defense in the league, like,
Yeah.
instantly.
Definitely. Moving on to the Sunday slate of games, we had the Eagles and the Rams in the snow. Watching this game, what were your thoughts and how were you feeling throughout?
I think this game overall defines the Eagles as the best defense in the league right now. I've seen little to no errors in the Eagles' defense, and I think their defense actually won them the game. A little iffy on the pass game right now, but I still think that they're going to work on it. And obviously, Saquon with the run game, been working all season. Another 200 bomb on the Rams.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
think Saquon might win it all.
Yeah, I mean, I hope that is the case. Just looking at this game, it was like it had me stressed towards the very end. I'll be honest with you, I was very stressed at the end. But at the end of the day, like you said, the defense made plays, and especially Jalen Carter. If he doesn't get that sack on Matt Stafford, Stafford might have a touchdown, because I don't know if you saw, but someone broke down the film. I think it was Dan Orlovsky. He broke it down and pretty much showed that Jalen Carter, if he doesn't get that sack, Stafford has a wide open touchdown to one of his tight ends. But overall in this game, like you said, they relied heavy on the run game with Saquon, and it worked. The Rams weren't able to stop it again. I mean, I know they probably had a game plan for it, but Saquon's just a special type of back, and it's unstoppable to put anything on him. Like, if you load the box, it still doesn't matter. This offensive line is one of the best, if not the best in the league, and it's going to continue to be that way as long as we keep the core intact and they stay healthy. But overall, the question I want to ask you is, the way the Eagles are playing right now on offense, do you think this can sustain enough to win the next two games and win a Super Bowl?
I personally believe that if Jalen Hurts works on pocket presence and especially avoiding the sack, knowing when to run out of the pocket, Jalen Hurts clearly knows the right moves to do. He just needs to know where to go to make the moves.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. Like, I think that's definitely something reasonable and stuff like that. But overall, I mean, I do think they can win it, like you said. And Jalen, he could be better 100%, but at the same time, he's making the plays he needs to make at the end of the day. And I feel like if he continues to do that and the run game works, then I think we should be fine. But overall, like you said, he does need to be better in the pocket. That I definitely agree on. But it's going to be interesting to see how that knee injury affects him. If it's showing that he's obvious and can't scramble, then the Commanders' game plan is going to change like that. They're going to be game planning either way for both of those outcomes. But overall, like you said, if Jalen can keep good pocket presence, I really think we should be fine. And when Jalen needs to make the timely throws, I think he will. And I think that will ultimately what is going to keep us in the playoffs and hopefully get to the Super Bowl. But like you said, keeping Jalen when he's in the pocket, keeping him contained. If he needs to get out of the pocket and create a play, he can do it. And just knowing when to make the right reads at the right time, I think, is what he needs to do. It doesn't have to be much, but when he needs to make the plays, he needs to make the plays.
Yeah, I really believe that Jalen Hurts, when he makes plays, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. He 100% knows what he's doing every single throw. He's not questioning anything.
Yeah, that's just a test to his intangibles, I think, in my opinion. Just having the ability to be a dual threat quarterback in this league has paid dividends. It's shown most of these quarterbacks in the league right now who are some of the best are dual threat quarterbacks. Jaden Daniels, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, and Jalen Hurts. All four of these quarterbacks are in the conference championship for a reason. One, because they're not turning over the ball, and two, because they're making the right plays at the right time. So.
Yeah, I believe that this version of a quarterback is just going to dominate the NFL in the next few years. Just quarterbacks that mainly just know when to do stuff.
Yeah.
Like, that's the ideal quarterback right now.
Yeah, definitely. And you can see those older quarterbacks that are just pocket passers kind of fading away from the league. And moving on to the final game, we had the Bills and Ravens. Bills won by 2 points as Mark Andrews dropped a 2 point conversion. He had a couple crucial bad plays for the Ravens, a fumble, a couple drops. But I've heard a lot of people put the blame on Lamar for his 2 turnovers. Ultimately, if you're looking at this game, who do you think was the best player on the field that night, and who do you think gets the most blame for that loss for the Ravens?
I really think the best player that night was Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry clearly wanted that win. He went through tons of holes, got tons of rushing yards, and he clearly wanted that win. And I think Mark Andrews definitely had the worst game ever on the Ravens. He's supposed to be their star tight end. He's supposed to be their go-to player. And when Lamar gives him the ball wide open, he can't be dropping it in times like this. I can see maybe 1 or 2 times, but multiple times in crucial situations is very bad for Baltimore. And Lamar Jackson always plays well. Like, people think that he sells in the playoffs, but if you watch him play that last game, he clearly was doing very well.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with what you're saying. I mean, Mark Andrews should get most of the blame, and I definitely agree with that. It's also like he also has a lot more pressure on him now because the Ravens have also found another tight end in Isaiah Likely who could easily take his job this upcoming season. But I think the biggest impact and the best players that night were the guys. I'm gonna give it to multiple guys. I'm gonna give it to the Terrell Bernard, Taron Johnson, got the 3 guys who came back for the Bills who did not play in Week 4, and it made its dividends. Terrell Bernard had a huge fumble on Mark Andrews, and he recovered, and that was a huge turning point. And just having those other 2 guys back, I know Taron Johnson, I can't remember the other guy off the top of my head, but just having them healthy and those 3 guys in particular playing, I think, were the main reason they win. Because Josh Allen didn't play his best game. He had 2 rushing touchdowns, but he barely had over 130 passing yards. And James Cook wasn't able to get much going in the run game. And except for a couple of timely passes to Khalil Shakir, Amari Cooper, and Keon Coleman, the offense really wasn't doing that much. But I think the Bills' defense was really an impact. And overall for the Ravens, I mean, I think it's tough. Their defense played well enough to win this game. I think Mark Andrews should get majority of the blame. But the question I want to ask you is, do you think Lamar can ever get rid of this reputation of him not being a postseason quarterback, or do you think this will stick with him the rest of his career?
I think one of these years, Lamar, he's got to have a breakthrough. The Ravens are going to get something like a star receiver, or Lamar's just got to have another breakthrough year, and finally the pieces will align for Lamar Jackson to have a chance. Because if you look at the past times Lamar lost in the playoffs, every single time he played the same exact way he did in the regular season. But I just think he's got unlucky by playing either incredible teams or just the rest of his players ruining his game.
Yeah, and on my honest opinion, I think this was their best chance in years. The way they were able to run the read option with him and Derrick Henry, it was an amazing thing to see. And the way they were able to make adjustments on defense, putting Kyle Hamilton back at safety, I thought that would propel them enough to at least make it to the championship game. But for a couple crucial plays, that's really what cost them the game, and that's why the Bills ultimately won it. But I mean, I think Lamar, like he could have a breakthrough. It's just so tough because the AFC is going to get even better. Houston's eventually going to develop and find a way to get past the divisional round. So it's going to be interesting. And then you got these other teams that are going to develop. Bo Nix will be better. You got you got Justin Herbert if he can get the pieces he needs, like more receivers and then building the offensive line more. But I think if Lamar can do it, it has to be in the next 2 to 3 years, or I think he'll never have his chance.
Yeah, I do think most of these AFC teams are finally going to overpower the powerhouses, but I still think Lamar's going to stick around for quite a while and be a very good competitor in the AFC.
No, I totally agree. But moving on to the conference championship games that we have this weekend, we have in the AFC, we got the 1-2 matchup in Kansas City in Arrowhead at 6:30 on CBS for the AFC crown. What are your thoughts about this game, and ultimately who do you have advancing to the Super Bowl for the AFC?
Right now, after watching these two teams playing the divisional, I think it's got to be the Buffalo Bills making the Super Bowl. I really like the way their defense played, and I think if Josh Allen just makes timely passes and knows when to run the ball, they're gonna destroy the Chiefs defense, and not even Mahomes can come back from how they'll play this game.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. So I think ultimately in this game, this is Josh Allen's moment. This is the one time where he's been the Bills' best player. I'm saying he has been one of the Bills' best players in years past, but the turnovers have been a major issue for him in the years past. This year, he's not turning over the ball. He's been Superman for them. That's the reason he most likely will win the MVP. I don't know who they're going to give it to at this point. It should be interesting to see at the very end. But this is Josh Allen's moment. If he can go into Arrowhead and do something only two quarterbacks have done and beat Patrick Mahomes in his home and then go to the Super Bowl, then that's all he really needs. I know, obviously, a Super Bowl win would be even bigger to get the Bills their first franchise one. But at the same time, to beat the allegations of him not being able to beat Mahomes in the playoffs will be huge for his confidence and huge for moving on because he's still got years to grow. And I honestly think the Bills are the better team in this situation because they showed it a couple weeks ago when they handed the Chiefs their first loss. I know that's still the regular season. But overall, this Chiefs team I really don't trust. And I feel like Josh Allen will be able to put up enough points where it doesn't come down to the refs, in my opinion. Because the only reason I see the Chiefs winning is if they just play better or the rest has something to do with it. I just don't think they can win this game out flat, just like playing the style of football they're playing right now.
Yeah, I do agree. I think the Bills are just the better team. I think they're like number one or number two in like the NFL throughout this entire season. They clearly have a great defense, great linebackers, and pass coverage, and I think that's a big part of the reason why Josh Allen's getting all these attempts because their defense is giving them the attempts to be a great quarterback this season.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, like I just said, Josh Allen's been like Superman. So it's like if this is the year. If this is out of any of these years in the past, this is the one year for him to honestly do it. And like me and you both said, I think this is the year he finally breaks that and tries and gets to his first Super Bowl. Moving on to the NFC Championship that will be played earlier in the day between the 2-seed Eagles and the 6-seed Commanders. Now that the Eagles are hosting the NFC Championship, what are your thoughts going into it as a Birds fan, and what are you hoping and expecting to see?
Yeah, I really believe that the Eagles are the best team in the league right now. I think they're fully complete. There's little to no holes in their offense or defense. I think if the Eagles are fully healthy, they're fully ready, they know exactly what the game plan are, they're beating any team in the NFL. Even though Jane Daniels is looking real hot right now, he has 5 picks against the Eagles. That clearly shows something. Jane Daniels cannot perform against a top defense. And he showed it against the Lions, whose half their defense was gone, and he dominated. But I think with the Eagles' defense covering every possibility, and Jane Daniels has no possibilities, he's just gotta throw the ball hoping. But I think the Eagles will ultimately win because of their defense again.
Yeah. Overall, in my opinion, I do think the Eagles can win this game, and I do think they have the better roster. This quarterback for Washington, though, he just scares me. I was thinking about this. The thing that scares me the most about him is how he's not scared of the moment. You barely see rookie quarterbacks play like this. He doesn't even play like he's a rookie. Like, he's doing stuff that most rookies should not or would be doing, and he's just defining all the odds. He's taken them to an NFC Championship. He's changed the culture. He has changed the franchise. Washington finally has a future, and it's going to be for years to come. But overall in this game, I think if the Eagles are able to run the ball efficiently and Washington can't stop it because they're ranked 31st in the run this year, and if they're able to continue to take advantage of the run against their defense and they're able to get one or two turnovers on Jaden Daniels, if it's a fumble, if it's an interception, any turnover, it has been shown in these playoffs, can pay huge dividends. And I think the Eagles are able to get one of them, I think it could be an interception, strip sack, like I just said. But overall, I think the Eagles will be able to run the ball efficiently. If Jalen's healthy and can make timely throws, they'll win. And I think the defense will play up the par to barely win this game. I think this game is going to be very close. It could be very low scoring, in my opinion. I think if it were to be high scoring, I think the Eagles would easily score more points because I have more trust in our defense than I do Washington's defense. But most importantly, I think Jalen, he can't put the ball in harm's way because Washington will take advantage. So,
Yeah, I think also Eagles playing at home is another great advantage for this. Eagles clearly have one of the most notorious fans in the NFL. Like opposing teams like actually fear going into their stadium just for like the ridicule that they're going to get. It's so much pressure that it actually affects the game.
yeah, definitely. No, I agree. I mean, the atmosphere there is second to none, especially when it gets to the playoffs. And I think if this is Jaden Daniels, this might be his toughest battle because I know Detroit's a tough place to go play, but that's at least in a dome. This ain't a dome here. Like they're gonna make it as loud as possible, and I think if they're like I said, it's gonna come down to turnovers. Whoever gets more turnovers in this game is gonna win the game. It's as simple as that. But I think the Eagles will be able to get more and ultimately get themselves the win, hopefully. So. But that would set up both of us for a Bills-Eagles Super Bowl. What would you want out of the game, and who would you ultimately have winning?
Yeah, I think if it's a Bills Eagles Super Bowl, I think that would be like the most ideal Super Bowl in our eyes, like especially as Eagles fans. And I think if it were to come to that, it would be an insanely close Super Bowl. I would think zero turnovers just because of how the quarterbacks are going to play. I think it might be just an all defense game, like some big plays here and there from Saquon or Josh Allen, but I think ultimately the Eagles would come out on top.
I could very much see that happening. And I'm just going to refer back to this NFC Championship game. I think if they're able to get out of the game and still look very good going into the Super Bowl, I think they will win the Super Bowl. It's all going to depend. I think if they were to win the game, it's going to depend on how they won the game and if they get to the Super Bowl, in my opinion. If they lose, their season's over. It's tough, but if they win this game close, if they win this in a blowout, I think they can easily beat the Bills in the Super Bowl because it's mostly about containing Josh Allen. These cornerbacks can lock up the wide receivers they have, let's be completely honest. And the second, I feel like, and we've seen Jalen back in 2022. When the moment's the brightest, he likes to ball out. He outperformed the best quarterback in the league right now, Patrick Mahomes, 2 years ago. And I think he could outperform Josh Allen just like he did to Patrick Mahomes. But ultimately, if it was a Bills-Eagles Super Bowl, I just think I like our defense a little bit better than Buffalo's defense, and I think that ultimately would be the deciding factor. So,
Yeah, I still think the Eagles defense. This is maybe one of the best defenses of all time. Like this is probably the best defense I've ever witnessed.
yeah, definitely. And it's been a while since we've been notoriously known for our defense, and it's definitely interesting to see. So. But moving on to the second half of this show, we got the recap of the national championship. Ohio State wins the national championship in the new 12-team playoff format. They win 34-23 over the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. What's your thoughts about this game, and overall, what were your thoughts on the first year of the 12-team playoffs?
I think that the 12-team playoff format is. I think it's a real good idea to actually include more teams in the CFB. I think there's more and more good players coming out of football this year, and I think clearly more teams deserve a chance to actually win the title. But I think the way of seeding of making the higher seeds just the conference winners, I don't think that was a good idea because like all the conference winners lost in the first round.
Yeah.
I think it has to be seeded based off of how good the teams are and maybe just have the conference winners be automatic makes.
Yeah, definitely.
But overall, I I really like that more teams actually have a chance, because if it was if it was still the original four, neither of these teams would even have a chance of winning national championship.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the most important thing about this and why I think it was such a great idea is it created stories for guys like Cam Skeetaboo on Arizona State. Not a very well-known guy, but what he was able to do in the championship game for the Big 12 and overall in the college football playoffs created a story for him and why he's mostly going to get drafted. And then you also had Ashton Genty. Boise State got some really good traction. But like you said, I definitely agree with the seeding part of it. It should be more on teams, on who they beat and stuff like that, and more competition that they face, because you want to see these better matchups like early in the first round. So two teams are fighting and one of them gets knocked out. So there's only like one, like there's like, for example, like Ohio State Oregon first round matchup. That would have been insane. I know Ohio State destroyed Oregon in the second round, but still, I mean, having that type of matchup would definitely be interesting. But overall, I think it was a great idea. It turned out well. Had a lot of great games, a lot of great finishes, and overall just ended with the team that was the better team out of the playoffs. Ohio State went through a lot of adversity after losing to Michigan in the final week and not having a chance to play for the Big Ten championship. It did not matter to them. They found a way to win every game, and in this game it was more the same throughout the playoffs that they played. Like, they played with aggression, they played with the attitude, the swagger they had, and deserved to be champions.
Yeah, I really believe that this 12-team playoffs allowed this Ohio State team to actually win the championship. You know, where like I think like 2 years ago, Georgia barely got kicked out of the playoffs just because they lost to Alabama. But that Georgia team had like Keely Ringo, Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter. That team was very famous defense, and I think they probably would have won too.
Yeah, I just think it's a great idea because it also makes teams want to play with even more heart throughout the season, because even if you lose two games, you still have a chance for the playoffs. Beforehand, if you lost one or two games, your chances were pretty much gone, and it's like this actually gives teams more chances to play, and it gives better competition as the season comes to an end, because you want these teams want to get in the playoffs and make their and create a story for their program, and that's what it did. I mean, who would have thought like teams like Boise State, Arizona State, teams like that beat SMU and Indiana? They all made the college football playoffs after really not being talked about the year before, and they created their own stories. So it should be interesting to see what teams can do that next year, because we have a lot of players leaving who were in the college football playoffs. So it's going to be interesting to see what new team can emerge, because Ohio State will be losing a lot of guys. So
yeah, I think they should definitely continue this format of playoffs, and it'll definitely create more stories, more opportunities, just better football in general.
yeah, no, I definitely agree. And really, other than that, is there anything else you want to mention for football, NFL, or CFB? Or
No.
okay, so that's gonna wrap up today's show. I'd like to thank Chris for coming on today. I really appreciate it. Other than that, like I said, it's gonna wrap up today's show. I'll probably have one either coming out tomorrow or Friday. But like I said, other than that, enjoy the rest of your night, and I'll talk to you guys later. See you.